Hello, hello, good morning. It's Monica from Life is Art, and this is the Friday 10 a.m. technique at the December in Lapland online crop. If you're wondering where Lapland is, that is the most northern region in Finland. And so we are visiting that snowy place right now. And the climate is actually very similar to here in Canada, at least where I live in Ontario. But they definitely have some winter fun there. And so we're on day 2 of our crop and our touring of the area. So today we're going to be looking at stretching the glimmer. And what is glimmer, you ask? Well, it's this Glimmer specialty glimmer paper from Stampin' Up, and it's sparkly and lovely and definitely makes you think of snow, except for this is Granny Apple Green, and so that's less snowy and more just green. But you can purchase the Glimmer paper. It comes in a pack that has, I believe, is Cherry Cobbler, Garden Green, and Granny Apple Green, and you get 2 sheets of each, which seems like a good amount, but then when you start to use Glimmer paper, you're like, ooh, I want to make that last as long as possible. Now, I saw an idea for a card online somewhere at some point, and it stuck in my mind, and I wanted to sort of create a card similar to it. And it started out with just a square frame. And I thought, ooh, glimmer paper, that would make a nice square frame. And then I can do my decorating around that. And so when I got my Granny Apple Green glimmer paper, I thought, this is perfect. I'm going to try it. And that started me down a rabbit hole. You know those days where you're like, so this happened? Yes. So I started out to make one card, and you're going to see what happened next. So I started out thinking about what I can use to make a frame and a square frame. So I have my stylish shapes dies, and I have the square stitched frames. So dies. And so what I did was I took the 2 largest, and I thought if I cut them on the same thing together, I'm going to create a frame. So that's what I did. I took my largest one, and if you're like me, your die cut machine cannot take a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, so you have to cut it down anyway. So I thought I don't want to waste any of my glimmer paper. So I carefully, took my die and I measured it, and I saw that it was about 3 inches square. So I cut a strip of 3-inch paper, and then I just said, well, it's a 3-inch square, so I'm just going to cut a square. So that's what I did. So I cut a square, and there's my square. I've got my die centered on it, nice and even. Not even planning ahead. Just this is just what happened. And then I took my other die and I stuck it inside, and I made it as even as I could, because we're making a frame. So we need those 2 cut edges. Of course, you need something to hold those in place. So I got my donut washi tape going, and just grab it like that. And let's see, did we keep it in place? Sort of. It's a little off, but we'll just nudge it so that it's pretty much centered in there. It doesn't slide as well on glimmer paper because there's texture, but you get the idea. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to washi tape those in place so it doesn't move when we run it through our die cut machine, right? So we've got that. We've got our die cut machine, and I'm just, just an any old day, and I'm just running them through, not a care in the world. Put them through, la-di-da-di-da. I don't know if you can clue into what's happening here, but something happened when I took these dies off. And I'm going to show you what happened. Take my washi tape off. Like that. And then I take my dies out. And because this is glimmer paper, it's got some good stick-to-itiveness to it. And so I'm like, okay, I got to get my frame out of here. So, you know, you just kind of work your way around the frame. Take off the outside bit. Like that. And then you take out the inside bit. Like that. And then you're like, awesome, that's what I wanted. I wanted a frame. I've got a frame. Hooray, hooray. I love my frame. And then I looked at what was over here. Do you see what's over here, what's happening here? I made a lovely frame, which is exactly what I wanted. But then I had all of this glimmer paper sitting here going, well, I can't throw that out. What am I going to do with it? So I started out with a plan to make one card, and then I went down a rabbit hole. And if you're like me and you do a little bit of calculating, you say, if I make a card with my frame like I had fully intended to, and then I make a card with this little skinny frame, and then I make a card with this little square, I now have 3 cards out of the same 3x3 piece of glimmer paper. And if I used a whole sheet of glimmer paper, because, you know, Christmas cards, you do tend to make more than just one. If I made 3 cards out of every 3x3 piece of glimmer paper, then I would end up with 48 cards. I started making 1 card. Then my brain said, we're making 48 cards. And then I had to figure out what I was going to do with these. So let me show you what my brain came up with. All right, let's move these out of the way. I wanted to keep my colors simple, so I stuck with the Granny Apple Green. I also brought in white, so this is basic white card base. And I also wanted to use Garden Green and Real Red, because I actually bought a full pack of Garden Green and Real Red cardstock. So that was my colors. 2 kinds of green, red, and white. And I like keeping those, you know, color selections to a minimum because I think it looks nice on a card. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this frame on here. Now, although I kept my color selection down, I added in some other things. So we've got glimmer paper, we've got white cardstock, we've got Real Red cardstock, we've got Garden Green cardstock. We're also going to use some Garden Green ink and Granny Apple Green ink and Real Red ink. So we're still sticking with those same colors. But I do have a handful of stamp sets that we're going to use. We're going to use the one-of-a-kind stamp set, because why not? Beautiful. That was what I was originally intending on using, but then I had to add another little something, and that was the Happiest Day stamp set. And the reason I wanted the Happiest Day stamp set is because there is this gorgeous little cluster of sparkly bits, which I think works perfectly with snow. So the Happiest Day stamp set, and then we needed a sentiment, so we're also using the Peaceful Season stamp set, which has gorgeous, festive sentiments. Okay? If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay or just drop a comment. And I see that we have some people already joining us. Hey, Allison. Laura's here too. My mom and Michelle. Good morning. Good morning. So we've got 3 colors, 3 stamp sets, 1 die set, and let's make some cards. Alrighty. So for our first card, the one I originally intended to make, I want to grab my little cluster of sparkles from that Happiest Day stamp set and my Granny Apple Green. Now I don't have the full-size stamp pad for this, but I do have a little Stampin' Spot. So we're going to ink up our sparkles. And I've got my frame sitting on here a little bit north of center, and I'm going to add some sparkles right there where it would be under the frame. And I like to do this if I'm going to do some background stamping on a card especially. I kind of set whatever is going in front of it, and then I can kind of judge where the stamping needs to go, right? Let's turn it around the other way. We're going to stamp right here, kind of in the center of our frame, but a little bit offset. And then we're going to ink it up again. And let's turn it back the first way. And we'll add some stamping down here. Just like that. It kind of reminds me of sort of a retro look when you get those little sparkles going and the little bit of glimmer happening there. It has that very retro feel. Now I want to pop this this frame up. I'm going to use some dimensionals on it. Before I do that, though, I'm going to add a little bit of stamping with the smallest snowflake from the one-of-a-kind stamp set. And I'm going to do that using the Garden Green ink. So I've got Garden Green here. And weirdly enough, I am doing all, you'll notice there was nothing in there that really read snowflake. All my snowflakes are in green. So let's add a little snowflake here and a little snowflake here and a little snowflake here. And yes, you have to talk like that. And here. You have to make the little and here sounds because that's just more fun. All right, so we've added a little extra snowy goodness on there along with the little sparkles. And now it's time to stick things down. So I am going to add some dimensionals to this. And to do that, I'm actually using the foam adhesive strips, and I've just cut down a chunk of them. So they're all about the same length. And I don't know what that is, maybe about an inch. And this is just going to make it easier for me to get them on here because this is the thin little frame. And so if I go ahead and use the strips that are already cut in strips, it will work out well. So I'm kind of focusing on the corners and just adding a little strip. There's going to be gaps. That's okay. It doesn't need to be fully stuck down. Just get it mostly stuck down. We're not making a shaker or anything. We could, because that would be super fun, but we're not today. Alrighty. So we've got our foam strips on there. Then we can take the backings off, and then I will have a pile of backings. That one decided to come over here. Set it to the side. Are you like me and every time you're taking the backing off of these things, there we go, stuck my finger in it. You get to the end and you have to test to make sure the last one actually was the first one? Stick your finger in it. And as I say that, I stick my finger in it. You know, because that's how we roll. All right, I think this is the last one. All right, now, for me, you know the drill. I like to use the tweezers so I can see where it's going without my hands in the way. So I'm just going to go ahead and sort of center that. I'm trying to go a little bit north of center. I might have succeeded there. And then we're going to bring in some more snowflakes. And these ones I have cut ahead and are stamped ahead in the Garden Green, and I have fussy cut them out. Yes, I did. I fussy cut them out because there are no die for these little ones. There's only a die for the largest snowflake. And so you just do what you do. And I'm going to bring in some dimensionals, and some of these are going to have dimensionals on them. So I want two of these larger ones with dimensionals and two of the smaller ones, which are sort of the medium small, to have dimensionals. And then we can go ahead and apply these. So I'm going to sort of tuck this one underneath the frame up there. Let's add this one on the inside of the frame. The strips are actually taller than the dimensionals, so there's a height variation between the frame and the snowflakes, which is super fun. If you're wondering about the odd shape of my screen, I tried doing a bunch of stuff last night. It still hasn't figured out how to not be stretched funny. I got hair stuck in my dimensional. And it's probably my hair because I don't have animals. We're going to have to give it a haircut. Somebody's getting a card with a little extra. There we go. Tuck that one in there. And then this little guy. We're going to hold off on that one for a minute. Let's add this one. I'm going to add this one on the frame. So I'm going to actually use liquid glue because if you're attaching anything to glitter or glimmer paper, you need to use liquid glue. So I'm just going to stick that right on there, kind of hanging over the edge. And then we need to stamp a sentiment. So I have a 1 1/8 inch square piece of the basic white cardstock. And I'm going to bring in the real red ink. And for this one, we're going to use one of the sentiments from the One of a Kind one that says, sending a flurry of happy wishes. Sending a flurry of happy wishes. Because it looks like a little flurry going across our card. And let's use this stamp block. Get that inked up. Sending a flurry of happy wishes. I'm going to come a little closer to me. And stamp a little bit on the left side. Close that up. So we've got mostly green happening on this card, but we're adding just a little touch of red for a little bit of a contrast pop. We're going to dovetail this by snipping a little slit right in the center, and then come from the corner to the top of the slit, and then from the top corner straight to the top of the slit. And there we go. And then this we're going to stick on our frame as well. So let's grab our liquid glue. We're going to tuck it right on this corner of the frame. So just put a little bead of liquid glue. And the liquid glue works because you are you're getting down into the nooks and crannies of the glimmer paper. So we're just popping that right on the corner. And then we need to come in with our last two and grab the liquid glue for this. We're going to pop one above our sentiment, right like that. So it's kind of hanging over the outside edge of the frame. And then this last little guy, I should use my tweezers so I can actually see where it's going. We're going to just add that one there. That's why I waited, so I knew where the edge of my sentiment was going to be. And then we need a wee bit of bling because, you know, we need to have a little more sparkle on there with all that glimmer. So let's grab some of these rhinestone basic jewels. We're going to put one right in the center of that snowflake. Why not? And then let's add one outside the frame. We'll add one inside the frame, and then we'll add, if I can get it, another one up here. Who else uses a pokey tool for lifting and arranging their sparkles? And then let's add a center to this one as well. There we go. So that is the first of our 3 cards completed. Look at all that lovely sparkle and shimmer, and I think it's not a difficult card. Hey Heather, nice to see you're watching. But it just creates a really nice look. And with not a lot of extra paper other than our Glimmer paper. Okay, then let's come in with card number 2. And for card number 2, we're going to be using that skinny little frame. We're going to combine it with some garden green cardstock that has been cut to 3¼ inch square. And then we're going to have some real red cardstock, 3/4 inch square, that has been embossed with the Forever Plaid 3D embossing folder. So I hope you can see the texture that's showing up on that. It's just fun. It just adds a little something instead of just having plain cardstock. So let's bring in our card base. And we've got all our pieces here. And we also want our little sparkles. There's our little sparkles again. And our Granny Apple Green. We're keeping things consistent. This would be nice to give as a set of cards to somebody. So let me come in with my first piece of paper, which is this garden green. It's going to be on a little bit of a tilt like that. And so I want my sparkles to show above. So let's slide it out of the way and stamp those down. And then we'll put it back on a tilt here so we can measure. And then we're going to add some little sparkles down here too. Just like that. Easy peasy. I love those little sparkles. I've used them on a few projects so far. And that stamp set, the Happiest Day, has a sentiment that says, "You make me feel like glitter in the sun," which I think is a fabulous sentiment. All right, let's add some adhesive to the back of this garden green. Peel the backing off. And then let's put our garden green on a tilt like that. And then we're going to come in with our embossed real red with that 3D plaid. Okay, backing off. There we go. And we're going to come in with this and we're going to just tip it a little bit. Actually, this one we're going to make straight on our card. So we're going to kind of center it from side to side, top to bottom, put it on straight. And then we're going to come in with our frame. Now, this is a scrawny little frame, so we're going to have to do our little technique of adding some glue to our hand like that. Grab our frame, and we're going to tap it in the glue. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 all the way around. Tap, tap, tap. Make sure we're getting glue everywhere. And then we're going to add this on. And I kind of want the corners of this Glimmer paper to point at the intersection between the red and green papers. You see that? See how the corners are kind of pointing right towards those? Make sure it sticks down good. Some of it's touching, some of it might not be touching just because of the dimension of that embossed cardstock. And then we're going to come in with our sentiment, which is a combination of 2 sentiments from the Peaceful Season. We have Wishing You and Yours, and then Cheer All Year. And I stamped them together and with the real red, and I fussy cut my way around it. Pardon me. And that's the sentiment we're using for this. Let's grab a little bit of dimensionals here. Pop a couple on. There we go. And we're going to just tuck this down in the corner. Wishing You and Yours. And then we have some stamped snowflakes, just like we had for the other one, in the garden green, stamped and fussy cut. And then we have this largest one that was stamped and die cut. Woohoo! And let's add a little bit of foam on the back of this guy, like so. So these were all stamped with the garden green. And then this guy is going to kind of hang out over here. Put them all a little bit on a tilt, like that. And then these two are going to get adhered kind of to the edge of the glimmer paper. So let's add some adhesive on the glimmer paper there. Now to see where I put it. That's always the challenge. Once you got it on there, where did I put it? Let's get ourselves prepared. We'll maybe put the glue on this one because it's big so it can handle it. It won't smush too badly. And then we're just going to add a little snowflake there. So we've just got a little trio of snowflakes on this one. But of course we can't stop there. We need to add a little bit of bling. So again, coming in with the same embellishment, and we're going to add, let me see, let's grab a big one and put one right in the center because there's kind of a blank spot in the stamped image here. We might as well put some bling in there. And then let's grab a little guy and tuck them down here. Let's add one in the center of this guy and one in the center of this guy, and then one more because we've only got 4 on there, so we might as well make it 5 and add one more there because we like our odd numbers, right? And there is card number 2, making use of that outside bit of my 3x3 glimmer paper. Okay, let's finish up with our last one. For our last one, remember, we have a card base, but we had that square of glimmer paper that was left over. This is about 2 3/8. That's what comes out of the die. And we're going to match that up with a piece of real red. And this has been cut to 2 3/4, so it's a little bigger. And then a piece of garden green. We're keeping in that same family. The pokey tool works great, right? You're loving them, Laura. Awesome. So our garden green is 2 7/8. So again, it's just a little bit bigger. And we're also going to have 6 of these die-cut snowflakes from the one-of-a-kind dies that go with the one-of-a-kind stamp set. So we've got 6 of these little snowflakes, okay? So first, let's deal with our paper. And you'll see the really cool thing that we're going to do with those snowflakes. All right, with our paper, I don't want to just, you know, put a square inside of a square inside of a square. So I decided we should make triangles. So I'm going to take these squares and I'm going to put them in my little trimmer here, line them up on the diagonal point to point, and trim them. So I've got 2 glimmer paper triangles. I've got 2 real red triangles. And then I've got 2 garden green triangles. Alrighty, now we're going to stack them. We're going to need to use some liquid glue for this because we got to get into all the nooks and crannies. So obviously the green is our largest. So then we're going to come in with the real red. Make sure we get into the points. And then we're just going to center it so there will be a little skinny strip of the garden green all the way around our real red. I'll move that out of the way for a second. Squish it down. And then we're going to come in with our Granny Apple Green Glimmer paper. I think that feels like a tongue twister. Granny apple green glimmer paper. And we're going to stick that in the center. Now I'm lining up the outside edge, so I'm not centering it that way. You'll see me kind of stand it up and make sure it all lines up. So we've got layers happening on this side, but this side is just flush with each other, okay? So make sure those are stuck down, and then we're going to repeat the process with these pieces. Adding our real red. And of course, using the liquid glue gives you a moment to kind of squizzle around, squidge it around, smoosh it around, scooch it around. All the funny words I use. Some of you have noticed that I use funny words for things. And then we're going to come in with our glimmer. I guess squizzle is similar to a swizzle, like a swizzle stick. You're just kind of smooching things around. Alrighty, so now we've got two little triangles. We're going to come in with our card base. We've got our fold on the left. And what I want to do is I want to kind of place these on here, but I'm not getting the full triangle on here. I'm going to go slightly off the edge on both sides, like that, so that it's a little bit different, right? Can't always have it all in the box. Sometimes we have to go out of the box. But it's created this fun little pathway here. And what I'm going to do with that pathway is I'm going to put some snowflakes in that pathway. One of these snowflakes I actually want to cut in half. So I'm going to use my trimmer for this. Hopefully it'll work. And just scooch it in there. And I'm going to trim it in half. Like that. Now the hard part is to get the other bit out. And I'm going to, before I stick down my triangles, I'm going to stick down my snowflakes. So again, a little bit of glue on the hand, grab our tweezers. Let's stick down this half one first, tap, tap, tap. And I want to make sure I get lots of glue along this cut edge, because that cut edge is going to go right against the edge of my card, and I don't want it to snag on things and rip it all off. So we're going to stick it down like that, and then we're going to come in with another one and tap, 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 tap. Now this one's not going on the edge, so if it doesn't get completely covered in glue, it'll be a-okay. And then I'm going to lift up my little triangle. This is why I haven't stuck it down yet. And I'm just going to stick that right underneath. Alrighty. And if they shift around, it's okay. Just stick them back. Grab a little more glue. The trick with the glue on your hand is you don't want a big puddle of glue. You want just a skiff of glue, because if there's a puddle, you're still going to end up with glue on the front of your die cut piece. You want just a little skiff. And then let's add a snowflake right about there. And you'll see me just keep putting these back so I can see where I'm going. I'm just filling in my little pathway with all these fun little snowflakes, and it's going to create such a cute texture. Now you could accomplish a similar thing if you added a panel on the front of your card that you did embossing. If you have a snowflake embossing folder, you could totally do that. If you had a snowflake stencil, you could use some texture paste and put it through the stencil. Lots of different ways you could accomplish this technique. I happen to have this die cut, so that's what I used, because what's the motto? You use what you have, right? So if this is what you have, this is what you use. So there we go, sticking another snowflake on there. Oh, Diane's watching with no sound because she's at work. That works too. When we're sticking things together like this, we don't really need the commentary, because we can just watch what's happening. And if you really get intrigued, you can go back and listen to it later, right? And then we're going to add another snowflake there. And then our very last one is this half one. So that's how I was able to get away with only using 6 snowflakes, was because I cut one in half. So I made a 7th one, which is an odd number of snowflakes, which is great because our brains like odd. Let's add our adhesive now onto these triangles. And then we can stick them on our card, remembering that we're coming down from the corner just a little bit. And I always like to kind of squish right over top of things like this. Make sure it's getting good contact. And then we're going to come in with our second triangle. So you can see that we really stretched that glimmer paper quite a distance to create these 3 cards. We started out, all we wanted was a frame. All right, now we have some things that are hanging over the edges. And to deal with that, we need to open up our card and we're going to trim from the inside, because from the inside, we'll be able to make sure we're not accidentally cutting our card base. And we get a nice clean edge by doing that. Then along the fold, we'll just fold it and trim along. And then here, the last corner. There we go. And gather up all the little gluey bits because they're inevitably going to end up they're going to end up stuck to your card in weird places, probably on the back. And then whoever gets your card is going to be like, what's with the bits stuck on the thing? And you're like, I don't know what happened there. All right, so we have our card base. We need a sentiment. So from the same die set that we've been using to create the frame, we're also going to grab the largest banner here and cut it out, but I've trimmed off the end. Pardon me. And so this is going to go here on our card, but we want to stamp our sentiment. And I have the one that says A Season of Wonder and Happiness from our Peaceful Season stamp set. We're going to do it in the red because we want to add another little pop of red to this card. Just ink that up. Going to come closer to me. Hopefully I centered it. And then we can use some dimensionals to stick this on. Now, dimensionals will do a decent job of sticking to glimmer paper, so you can feel assured that it's going to stick. And the reason I'm using the dimensionals for this one in particular is because we have 3 layers now. With the snowflake, 4 layers. And this will just kind of help make it look all a little bit even. So we're going to come in here and stick that on, hopefully straight-ish. A Season of Wonder and Happiness. And then, what's our next step? What's always the last step before we finish up a card? We need some bling. Hey, Shannon, howdy, howdy. Allison likes my made-up words. Yay! I knew there was somebody that would appreciate my craziness. We're going to add a trio of bling onto our card here. Just a little, 2 off and 1 on the sentiment. Just to add a little bit of sparkle. We don't want to distract too much from that nice subtle snowflakes in the background. But there is our final card created. So we started out wanting to create a card that used a nice little frame. And then we ended up with so much left over from cutting out the frame that we couldn't let it go to waste. We had to stretch that glimmer and make it work. So we started out with this card, a little stamping in the background with those sparkles from the Happiest Day, adding in our stamped snowflakes and fussy cut snowflakes. the frame popped up with the dimensional strips. And then, of course, our lovely little sentiment, keeping with the garden green, granny apple green, and the real red. A little bit of bling to add to the glimmer. And then, of course, we took the skinny little frame that came from the outside and added in some embossed real red paper using that 3D embossing folder, a little bit of garden green in the background to frame it all, and then a little bit of stamping on the base card, some fussy cut and die cut snowflakes, our sentiment, and some bling. And then the last one, which is I kind of look at it as like sort of mid, more advanced, and more advanced still because it just took a long time die cutting all the snowflakes. I don't know if that makes it more advanced, but. And then we have this one that used that center square, layering it up with just the plain real red and garden green cardstock, but adding those die cut snowflakes in the background to create such a fun pattern. But again, you could use an embossing folder for that. You could use texture paste, stamping our sentiment, using the die cuts again. And I think that is a fun trio of cards. You could give them as a gift or just use them to send in the mail. And like I said, if you take one sheet of glimmer paper and cut this frame out of a 3x3 piece, you will end up with enough pieces to create 48 cards from one 12x12 sheet of glimmer paper. So we really stretched that glimmer. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing this technique come together and stretching the glimmer. And if you feel inspired to create any of these cards, feel free to take a photo of it and pop it in the comments so we can see and be inspired by your artwork or any other technique you have for stretching the glimmer. I would love to see it. All right, have a wonderful rest of your morning, and we will be on at 11:30 for Chat and Craft. We'll see you then. Toodaloo. Bye.